Hey there, and welcome back to Transformers War for Cybertron! As you recall, in the last episode, I showcased the last batch of soldiers, those being the Decepticons. And now, I have one last bonus video to show you that goes over some of the bosses that you encounter in the game. Now these aren't anything big like Omega Supreme or Decepticon, just some of the more standard characters that you actually end up fighting. Some with a few very interesting surprises. I think you'll find this very interesting. But enough talk, let's go check them out. Up first, Boss Starscream. Now this is an all too familiar foe. He is the last enemy you encounter in the first Autobot chapter, and quite a nuisance of an enemy, if I do say so myself. Well, compared to the version you play as, this one isn't all that different. His functionality is generally the same, but there are a few changes that I will run through. But first, let's get a quick look at him. Well, I suppose the first main change to mention is that Boss Starscream has new strafing animations for his movements. Very similar to what the Seeker uses, which is kinda quirky because he can also walk. It's weird that he has the default idle stance and not a new hover idle stance like the Seeker did. Kinda strange if you ask me. Well, other than that, nothing too important to mention for appearance, so let's move on to his weapons. That's where things get a little interesting. His most common weapon is the EMP shotgun. But this one is not the same as the standard EMP shotgun, oh no. It has its own unique data. It has about 10 rounds in a clip, as opposed to just 2. And also, it doesn't really fit into his arm there. As you can see, it's kind of just poking out. Doesn't form quite properly. But, to be fair, that is actually how it appears in the campaign. Well, aside from the shotgun, he is also equipped with EMP grenades. I think he's actually the only enemy in the game that uses those. Moving on, he has fully functional melee. Not that he uses it that often. As a bonus attack, he can perform his hover rocket barrage. Or at least the animation of it. Not sure if it actually does any damage. Additionally, he can jump and dash around like an absolute spaz. Because we all know he did a lot of that. And that should about cover it for robot mode, I think. So, let's turn our attention to his alt mode, which is a whole lot bigger than what it normally is. Yeah, you can notice the scale change immediately. Yeah, it's a super big jet. I can only imagine this was done to make him an easier target in the actual boss fight. Aside from the scale difference, he seems to be kinda clunky. Especially in his back sections, pieces just look like they're sticking out all over the place. Probably a result of the scale change, I would imagine. But yeah, a lot of his pieces look really broken. Well, with that all covered, I guess we move on to his functionality. Which is pretty typical. He can strafe around, of course. He can ascend, and descend, do a barrel roll, and of course, fly. Seems like he's got a few sounds missing though. So yeah, general functionality is about the same. But he does have some new weapons aside from the typical jet ones. He does, yes, retain the standard jet rockets. But he also has his own unique jet rockets that fire 2 rounds at once. Kinda like the truck rockets. He also has some jet grenades, but I am unfortunately unable to find a way to get those working, so I'll have to skip those for the time being. Well, why don't we have a look at him from the ground? And out of morbid curiosity, I think we should see how he handles against some actual Autobots. That should be interesting. So I think this would be an interesting place to try Starscream out. This thing is really bad for a shotgun. Well, it may still have some punch in it, I don't know. Oh, come on, Starscream. Yeah, this is also kind of fun. Did he just fall off and die? What an idiot. Hey look, there's High Moon's logo. Right there, you see it? That's it right there. Bit of an Easter egg that I missed. Centuries. Wow, that thing, not as powerful as you would think. This will be my tomb. Ooh. Well, that's not terrible. There's no... It's nothing like the main one. Guys. Like, it's not terrible, but Still, not nearly as good as the main. Ah, brute. Yeah. And I do believe that is all for Boss Starscream. A quirky, but interesting character. Well, there's one more unique boss to go, so let's go check him out. Up next, Boss Soundwave. This version of Soundwave appears at the end of Chapter 7 alongside his minions, where you have to fight them to save Zeta Prime. And honestly, this guy is not nearly as unique as I hoped he would be. At least not to the degree Starscream was. Well, there's literally no difference with regards to appearance. He's just the same old Soundwave that you've always known. So, nothing to mention on that count. His only new features are with regards to his weapons. For starters, he has his own unique Energon Repair Ray, which, frankly, I don't think is any different from the default one. I mean, maybe it has a bit of a longer fire rate, but the clip size seems to be about the same, so I don't know. The only new thing this guy's got going for him is his new Audio Blast, which actually fires from his torso cannon. This weapon causes a slow disorienting effect, much like the EMP grenades, but this weapon does barely any damage at all. I tried it against a sentry once. Did nothing. I guess you could play around with the effect a little bit. Just burns your eardrums, doesn't it? And that is really the only noteworthy feature I have to say about this guy. Everything else is the same generally, though I guess his melee animations are a little different. Maybe? I'm not really sure. He can still jump. Alt mode's the same. If you want a full look at Soundwave's alt mode, though, here you go. Yeah. If he looks lower resolution than most of the other characters, that's because he is. He never got a full 2048 by 2048 for his vehicle mode. So he's just 1024 by 1024. But that's really all I can say for this guy. But just for the heck of it, let's see how he is in action. So I figured, why complicate things? Let's just take him here. See how he does. Doubt I'm gonna last long here, though. Oh, well, this is a great start. Oh! Wow! I don't know how that makes sense, but I'll take it. It's really tricky when all you have is truck rockets to go on. I need more ammo. Is there anything around here? I'll just go for it.
Come on, let's get moving.
Oh, here's some. I'm going this way. Oh, I could certainly use that.
us to pieces!
No one turns back. Destroy those guns by any means necessary. You heard Lord Megatron. Decepticons, lay down cover fire while we take that building.
No more sniping.
Need to recharge.
Oh, is he back? You know what? I'm going in. Ow.
Now! Hit the Autobots while they're distracted!
Oh, let me heal you, dear friend. Break down, move it, or I'm gonna break you down. Get healed, you jerk.
There! The gun controls!
Alright, let's end my torment. Oh, that's not good. I wonder what will happen. Remember me, my children. And that was Boss Soundwave. Well, considering how dreadfully dull that was, I think it is only fair that we move on to Soundwave's minions next. That should more than make up for this blunder. So, let's get to it. And starting off the minions, we have Frenzy. The first minion you engage in the Soundwave boss battle, Frenzy strikes a bold crimson for his primary color, and a simple black for his secondary color. You'll likely notice he has an idle stance very similar to the Decepticon Cloaker. From what I could tell, it seems they share a very similar animation set. Well, he's pretty simple in design, not a whole lot to mention with regards to his appearance, though he is far smaller than most characters. I will say that I was surprised to see that he had the maximum 2048 by 2048 for his main texture, putting his quality up there with the rest of the playable characters. Well, with appearance out of the way, let's move on to weapons. You can see that he has a small gun molded into his right arm. Now, that gun is not actually functional, it's just there for cosmetic purposes. For his actual weapon, he is armed with an EMP shotgun. And not just any EMP shotgun. This one functions about the same as Starscream's, so it has way more rounds in the clip. A lot, apparently. Yeah. A lot. No additional weapons to mention. So let's move on to melee, which is fully functional. Though, it's a little oversized for his puny little hands. Though I'd have to admit, it'd be pretty creepy to see him running around with this.
Time to dance, Autobots!
Well, that's all for weapons, so let's move on to abilities. Frenzy frequently uses the Energon Sling ability, which will disable your abilities for a brief time. And he can also use the Hover ability, which he uses alongside a unique Rocket Barrage attack. What's interesting about this ability is that it automatically locks on to the closest target. For additional movements, he can jump, though it seems that his initial jump doesn't get him quite as high as it normally should. But as you saw, his double jump works just fine. Another movement that you don't actually see him use in the boss battle are new animations for the dodge ability. Pretty similar to the cloakers from what I can tell, though the side dodges are certainly different. And that will cover it for Frenzy's robot mode. But what about his alt mode? Well, believe it or not, Frenzy actually does have one. But it's probably not what you're expecting. Frenzy, transform. Yeah, Frenzy transforms into the same car as the Decepticon car soldiers. Though the scale is super off from what you see in robot mode. But the color scheme on the car is really sweet. I would turn him around and show you more, but he has the same bugged functionality as the Rocketeer. So here's a turnaround on the Machine Gunner. Appearance aside, he has the same standard car weapons. And he has one more trait that is extremely bizarre. You see, you can only transform this guy into vehicle mode once. If you head back to robot, he just poofs back with no animation, but if you turn him back into vehicle, his vehicle becomes completely invisible and stays invisible for the rest of your session until you either die or restart. A baffling issue, but one that's nonetheless present. Now, if you want to see some gameplay of this little guy, now with that all covered, let's see how he performs in combat. So I figured this would be a good location to go to. It's got Soundwave, and it's got a decent amount of Autobots to destroy. So, let's see how this goes. I'm curious to see just how tough little Frenzy is.
Hey! Who are you calling little?
Can you just aim for Megatron? Sorry. Okay, it's targeting Megatron. Really? Oh, this is terrific. Oh, Scatter Blaster. That's just what I need right now. You've got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. Well, You know what? Alright, I got nothing to lose. What kind of shotgun is this? This is terrible. And that's all there is to show for Frenzy. There's still 2 more to go, so let's get on to the next one. Up next, Frenzy's brother, Rumble. The second minion you encounter in the Soundwave boss battle, Rumble is overall the exact same model as his brother, but with the very blatant inclusion of his pile drivers, which, surprisingly enough, are set up at the maximum 2048 by 2048 resolution. I'm honestly surprised that they made such pieces so detailed. Well, for his colors, he strikes a bold dark blue for his primary color, and I believe the same secondary black as Frenzy. He also has his own unique idle animation, quite a bit different from Frenzy. Well, onto weapons. It may be kind of hard to see, but he actually does come with an Energon battle pistol. If you watch him closely during the battle, you can catch him using it. And, surprisingly enough, he actually does not have a functional melee attack. So, all his other attacks will have to be shown via ability. Well, his most common ability is the Ground Pound. Another frequently used ability is the Charge Attack. Unfortunately, getting this ability to work from a player perspective is a little difficult. So, I'm afraid I will not be able to directly showcase that myself. Additionally, he can jump, though unlike Frenzy, his initial jump works normally. Which is weird. And I believe that is all for Rumble's robot mode. Yeah, not nearly as exciting as Frenzy, huh? Ah well. Let's head on to his vehicle mode. Rumble. Transform! As you can see, it is the same standard Decepticon car as Frenzy. Broken functionality and all. So here's a turnaround of him via the machine gunner. Just like his brother's colors, these colors look really sweet on this vehicle. Well, he retains the same standard car weapons. Naturally. And just like his brother, he can only transform into vehicle once. As if you do it a second time, his vehicle stays invisible until you die or restart checkpoint. Well, let's see him from a gameplay perspective. You know, I literally just realized this was a stellar gallery this whole time. And I've been playing this map for years. Hey, can you go inside the planet? Ah, dang it. Can you? No, I think that's just texture. Ah, well. And since I don't expect him to last very long, let's see how he does in combat.
My will controls this entire chamber, Megatron. I need only close my hand to crush the light under you. Quit wasting firepower. You can't penetrate his shield. Do you see now, Megatron? This is my domain. Your theatrics don't frighten me, Saber. Here I have the power to control and create.
Well, that's interesting. Oh, thank you, Daddy.
A pathetic army of Energon clones. Is that the best you can do? You have no idea. Here, I have limitless power.
Megatron, we may be able to damage Xeris machinery during his rejoicing.
A valiant attempt, Decepticon. Machinery is more resilient than you realize.
Cybertron is my father.
And that is all for Rumble. There's only one minion left, and we all know who that is. So let's let him loose. And finally, everyone's favorite Cyberbird, Laserbeak. The third and final minion you encounter in Chapter 7, Laserbeak is actually way more functional than you'd think he'd be. I was certainly surprised by what he could do. Well, for his appearance, there isn't really a whole lot to say. You can really see all there is to see right here. I will say that, unlike the majority of the characters, he doesn't have any primary or secondary colors on the character itself. He actually gets all his character color from the grunge texture. Surprisingly enough, though, he actually does have his own robot mode. In fact, you're looking at it right now. And crazily enough, it is as functional as any campaign characters. Howbeit in a very quirky kind of way. For starters, he can actually wield weapons, which, by the color of them, would indicate that red is his primary color. If the model actually used it, of course. But the gun does actually work. Laserbeak's a bad bird. He can also jump. Yeah, it's a really bizarre setup. And he can also use melee. He just hangs onto his wing, apparently. But it's interesting, I guess. Yeah. Well, that's really all there is to say for robot mode. Not much, I know. So let's move on to his vehicle mode, which is what he's actually seen using in the boss battle. Yeah, it functions like any standard jet would. There's no obvious animation for this guy anywhere, but his functionality is the same as any jet. Let's just get a bonus look at him real quick. I just want to say this real quick. If you tilt him down, Doesn't that look like a combiner's chest piece? Because honestly, I really think of that when I see this. You could totally, like, rip this model apart and use it for something's chest, I think. But that's a subject for another time. Why don't we take a look at his functionality? Well, being a jet-based character, he can of course strafe around. He can descend and ascend. He can barrel roll. And of course, fly. Though his flight speed seems a little slow, at least compared to what it should be. Yeah, not that fast. Well, moving on to weapons, he has his own unique laser weapon, because he's Laserbeak. Not sure just how powerful this thing is. And he also has his own unique bombing run beam. This doesn't seem to be an attack he uses very often, but you better watch out when he does, because it just might be a one-shot. I'm curious to see if it's just as powerful when you play as him. Well, why don't we find out? Let's send him into battle against some lowly Autobots. So I figured this should be an interesting little experience. Let's see what we can do with this. Whoa!
Target the repair sentries, or we'll never destroy these Autobots!
This thing might be the most overpowered thing ever. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's amazing. How's this thing? Good golly. I didn't think it would be that powerful. Dude. That's amazing. God, I went for them like it was nothing. God, forget this. This thing's huge. Oh, there's more. Dude. I didn't think that would be that potent, but that's amazing. Dude. Wow. I didn't think that would actually work. Okay, I'm gonna cut to something real quick because there's something I'm really curious about. I just gotta know. I can't tell if this is doing anything though. Is it? It's smoking. I don't know if it's doing much damage though.
Rockets activated.
I can't tell.
Attack Decepticon! We defeat Omega Supreme here, or we die
Oh.
trying!
I can't tell if this is doing much. Is it? Either way, it's equivalently fine this from the air. I don't think this is doing that much.
Omega Supreme's main weapon batteries are charging! Prepare for evasive action!
Yeah, I don't think this is... Alright, well, I don't think this is working, so I'm just gonna fly into the laser. Live! And that is all there is to show for Laserbeak. And with that, that is also all there is to show for this video. Let's wrap it up. And that thus concludes the core of the War for Cybertron modded series. We have covered all the soldiers, and we've covered all the bosses. There isn't much more to cover outside that. Or is there? There is. There remains one last aspect that the PC community has been dreadfully denied, And I think you all know what that is. That's right. Next week, we're going through the DLC characters. And not only that, after I show them all off to you, you're gonna be able to play as them. Yeah, that's right. I have been allowed to open the door of modding to the community. And you're in for a real treat. So stay tuned for next week. We have a whole shockwave of content coming. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, later!